Okay, so some information, logistic information before entering in the core of our workshop today. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining our first Exceed Talks workshop. This event is co-organized by two Center of Vocational Excellence, Exceed. I'm representing here on behalf of Centoform, the coordinator of the project itself, and Exceed COVE is focused on green and digital innovation, eco-digital innovation in the advanced manufacturing sector. And the second COVE, co-organizer of the event, is the BSA COVE, Build Skills Academy, focused on the green transition in the building and construction sector. We are cooperating among the different activities of the two projects. So this is the fourth occasion to join forces to discuss together some crucial topics to support the green and digital innovation of our trans-regional ecosystems. And the event of today is, by the way, focused on green and digital upskilling and reskilling in Center of Vocational Excellence. I'm Elena Romanini. I will leave the floor to Vrula Samara, Athena RC, one of the Greek partners of our Exceed COVE Center of Vocational Excellence. Please take your microphone off so as to avoid background noise. The event will be recorded and is live streamed through the Exceed social media pages on LinkedIn and Facebook, if you prefer to join also through these channels. All the materials and presentations we are going to follow together. Thank you to the participation of our keynote speakers of today will be shared with the participants as a follow-up activity after the event. And also you can ask to our speakers any clarifications or any question you want through a dedicated session, a Q&A session we will have at the end of the workshop of today itself. The workshop will be facilitated by Vula Samara, Athena RC, so I'm leaving the floor to her for the works of today. Thank you very much and stay connected for the next step of the workshop. Thank you. Please, Vula, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Elena. Good morning, all. Thank you for attending the first Exceed talk. I would like to first present Professor Phoebe Koundouri, professor at the Athens University of Economics and Business and Technical University of Denmark, chair of UNSDSN Global Climate Hub, and director of Sustainable Development Unit of Athena Research Center. Professor Koundouri is also the principal investigator both for the Exceed project and the Build Skills Academy. So the floor is yours, Professor. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, you are muted. You need to unmute yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited to be launching the Exceed talks, and truly pleased to present in yet another forum the results of the green and digital upskilling and reskilling report that we perform in the Alliance of Excellence for Research and Innovation in AE4RIA. So if you allow me to share my screen, maybe Elena, you will need to unshare your screen so that I can share my screen. Thank you so much. Let me say that this report that we are gonna be talking about, my colleagues and I, has been first presented during COP28 in Dubai. and it has received quite a lot of interest because it really handles a very important issue. And the important issue is the ability to actually implement the green and digital transition. The application of what we did, and let me know if you can see my screen, the application of what we did, it focuses in Europe. It has a focus on Europe. So what we did was trying to cover what is needed in terms of green and digital skills in order to implement the regulations, laws, and directives that are included in the European Green Deal. And one should know that the European Green Deal has been announced at the end of 2019. And since then, it's been developed and is culminating into a very, very elaborate, detailed policy framework that transposes the global agenda of UN Agenda 2030. But already we have the laws that are supported by the Parliament at the European level, and also the laws that have been transposed and voted by national governments. So I just want to start my presentation by saying that the skills that we have identified are the skills that are needed to implement the laws that are already voted for by national parliaments and are already in effect. So these are skills that are immediately needed, and there is a big question mark on whether they are available in the labor market, in the labor force. And this question mark basically defines our implementation ability. In order to implement the already voted for and in effect laws of the European Green Deal, we need the skills. We need the skills that you will see today based on our work. And we also know from other reports that 85% of these skills are not yet in the labor force. So this points to a very big need, an urgent need for vocational training, for developing in the labor force a major era of upskilling and reskilling in order to be able to implement the laws, the national laws that support the European Green Deal. And in my presentation, I will emphasize that the skills that are needed and the occupations that are needed have a very multidisciplinary layer, multidisciplinary flavor, and it is about time that this multidisciplinary flavor is integrated into the curricula, not only of vocational training, but also universities and also lower levels of education. So having given you this quick introduction, let me just go very quickly through the existing policy framework and then also touch upon the different skills that are needed in order to be able to implement this framework. And we all know that this multi-crisis of, just somebody for me to confirm that you can see my slides, please.
Yes, we can see.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So in this era of a multi-crisis with economic crisis, low growth rate, inflationary pressures, shrinking fiscal spaces, and 1/3 of countries around the world in default, coupled with the climate change crisis and the biodiversity collapse crisis and population crisis, leading to inequalities within countries and across the world, and also geopolitical crisis, we have one global agenda, only one actually. There's no other global agenda. 163 countries have signed this agenda in 2015, and it's an agenda for 2030 to achieve 17 goals and 169 targets within them. This is a very solid interdisciplinary systemic framework that can help us escape the multi-crisis. And it is an agenda about the optimal interaction between nature, society, and economy. And it is on this agenda that we work as the Alliance of Excellence for Research and Innovation on AE4RIA, combining the effort towards significant impact of various research and innovation centers, innovation acceleration hubs, science policy networks, and scientific associations and academies that we work with. Actually, to say it more explicitly, that I have some leading role in. So I thought, and the 200 researchers working with me agreed that it is important to bring all these activities under one headline and allow the effort that we put in this to create the impact. Our major areas of work are sustainable development goals, performance measurement, environmental, social, and governance criteria measurement, sustainable finance, sustainable pathways to climate neutrality and resilience, sustainable pathways for seas and oceans, sustainable pathways for land use and water, food, energy, and biodiversity nexus, and also innovation acceleration, as well as education, upskilling, and reskilling. The project that supports these talks is the project on that belongs to the category education, upskilling, and reskilling. So I'm just putting the slider on this particular thematic area to indicate just the projects we have that are focused on this particular area, thematic area. And of course, you all know that the exceed, I am assuming that you all know, and you also heard from the person who is leading the project, that this is a project focused on excellence in green and digital manufacturing. And it's a project that aims to establish a European network for vocational training focused on green and digital manufacturing, in particular 6 centers in 5 countries, Italy, Spain, Finland, Czech Republic, and Greece, to support innovation and sustainable competitiveness of advanced manufacturing sector. And of course, we are part of this project, and we are very proud to be part of this effort. because we really see the missing gap in the labor market. We see the need for upskilling and reskilling of low-skilled adults and workers at risk of marginalization because of the transition that needs to take place in order to escape the multi-crisis and really be able to embark on sustainable development pathways. This is crucial, and I'm going to say it at the beginning of my talk. It is crucial that existing members of the labor force are upskilled and reskilled and are given the capacity to be really members of the labor force that is going to implement the European Green Deal. Because if they don't have the capacity to be members of the labor force, if they are not upskilled and reskilled in a way that they can participate as workers and as employees in green and digital companies, then the green and digital transition will never be implemented because there will be resistance to change. And resistance to change is there whenever the people feel threatened by change. If the people become members and stakeholders and shareholders of the transition, then the transition is possible. However, as it is clear for everyone, I hope, you cannot be engaged in a transition if you don't have the capacity to engage. So what is this transition all about? As I said before, the transition is about the implementation of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and the 169 targets within them. Targets that are about the society, the economy, and nature, and their systemic and sustainable interaction. These were launched in 2015, replacing Millennium Goals. 2015 in September in New York, and a few months later in Paris, we had the exact articulation of SDG 13 on climate action with the Paris Agreement, announcing that what we want to do is to keep a global average increase in temperature well below 2 degrees Celsius, because we cannot afford to have further destabilization of the climate, which transposes into frequent and severe catastrophic weather events. In 2018, the well below 2 degrees Celsius became 1.5 degrees Celsius as the maximum increase in average global temperature compared to pre-industrial era that we can actually afford to have. And by the end of 2019, we had the announcement of the European Green Deal, which was a true effort to articulate into the European policy framework the SDGs. This is not the first time, of course, that European policies are being drafted with nature, the economy, and the society integrated in the laws. But this is a more overall umbrella policy framework that is really the best transposition of the SDGs into a policy framework around the world. Mind you, there are other transpositions in the US, in other countries around the world. There are many Green Deals around the world. Allow me to think that this is the more scientifically robust transposition of the systemic science under the SDGs to a policy framework that is potentially implementable, and I hope truly implementable. Now, what I'm saying in terms of the connection between the SDGs and the European Green Deal is also documented in Nature Climate Action publication of my team, which uses deep neural networks in a machine learning approach to identify the cross mapping of ESG policies with the SDGs. And there we find that there is a very close correlation between the SDGs that are relevant to sustainable food, land, water, and oceans, and energy decarbonization and sustainable industry. There is less well correlation on the SDGs on social inclusion and social cohesion. And this is worrisome because these SDGs are not really there in the European Green Deal, or they are there, but in much less prominent way. And this is the effort of Exceed project. We made it our business in this project to make sure that we communicate that for the transition to happen, for the transformation that the European Green Deal needs in order to be implemented, we need to make sure that social cohesion is there. And to have social cohesion and to have the social SDGs implemented, you really need to make sure that you give people the capacity to be part of the new transformed economy. And to have the capacity, you need to have the skills in order to be part of the labor force. So the European Green Deal basically, sorry about this. The European Green Deal basically is a framework that has four main axes. One is climate neutrality by 2050. The second one is protection of human health and nature from pollution and collapse of ecosystems. The third axis is about clean tech leadership of European companies. And the fourth axis is about leaving no one behind. And the European Green Deal was supported by 1 trillion euros, some of it directly from EU budget, some of it from ETS, and some of it to be leveraged between PPPs, public-private partnerships. And of course, there were a few hundred millions devoted to the Just Transition Fund, exactly on upskilling and reskilling and helping the heavily fossil fuel dependent communities to transform into an economy, into a labor force that can really redirect its attention and effort towards green and digital economy and production. The European Green Deal was announced in late December 2019. And unfortunately, early January 2020, we had COVID. It was announced by the WHO as a pandemic. And the big win of Europe for me and many others was that it did not, in the face of this big pandemic, catastrophic pandemic with millions of deaths, it did not forget about the European Green Deal. Actually, it launched Next Generation EU, including the Recovery and Resilience Fund, about 750 billion in addition to the 1 trillion of the European Green Deal, which was focused on how to get the European economy and society and nature to recover from COVID in a sustainable way. And the interesting thing was that Next Generation EU was basically saying that I'm going to fund investments to help the recovery from COVID that are consistent with the 4 main axes of the European Green Deal and the 9 different policies of the European Green Deal that are basically thematic priorities within the 4 axes that I already referred to. And the main prerequisite for getting funding as a country and as an investor from RRF, from the Recovery and Resilience Plan, which was the biggest part of Next Generation EU, was that your investment was 37% climate proof, and it respected the do no significant harm principle for the environment, and also 20% digital proof. When we are saying climate proof, the Recovery and Resilience Fund basically financed investments on decarbonization of industry, circular economy, nature-based solutions, and e-mobility. And when we say 20% digital proof, then RFF in detail funded deployment of digital technologies, cutting-edge digital technologies. It funded upskilling and reskilling with regards to digital use. It funded cyber security. And in 2021, from 2021 until today, we also have the different laws and regulations and directives that support the 4 axes of the European Green Deal and the 7 different thematic policies. We had a new EU strategy for adaptation to climate change. So how do you adapt infrastructurally and with upskilling and reskilling as well, not just infrastructurally, not just with early warning systems, but how you transform all the interaction between nature, society, and economy in order to hedge against losing lives and huge infrastructural catastrophes and long economic disruptions when an extreme weather event related to climate change takes place. Then we have the climate change law, the first time that the requirement to reduce greenhouse gas emission becomes the law, with deadlines by 2030 to have a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions 55% compared to what you had in 1990, and 2015 becomes climate neutral. Then we had the EU taxonomy, a series of laws and regulations to relevant to the financial sector and investment sector, which basically made explicit which investments can be considered sustainable and hence are able to receive cheap funding, cheap loans, low interest loans, and longer run loans. These investments concern climate mitigation, climate adaptation, circular economy, sustainable use of water and marine resources, protection of biodiversity. And together with this explicit identification of what a sustainable investment is, we also have the Corporate Sustainability Directive, which says that in 2024, all large companies and all companies that are in regulated markets and stock exchanges need to submit a sustainability report where they report the footprint of their company on environmental, social, and governance issues. And 2027, all companies will have to do that. So we are changing the laws, we are changing the financial system, we are also changing what all other systems that are included in this interaction between society, economy, and nature. And this happens within the Fit for 55, which is a package of regulations, 13 different regulations, each pointing to different systems that need to be transformed in order to achieve a sustainable transformation of your economy, society, and nature and their interaction. Fit for 55 regulates forest use, regulates emissions in all sectors of the economy. It includes almost all sectors in the emissions trading system, shipping, transport with not just shipping, but also aviation, and also big vehicles in the roads. It regulates the forest system. It regulates the water system. It creates a climate fund to support the regulation of all mitigation and adaptation activities with regards to climate. And basically, all these regulations are there to help mobilize the transformation of the economy so that by 2030, the 55% reductions in greenhouse gas emissions compared to what we have in 1990 can be achieved. We also had in 2022 the REPowerEU, and I'm just picking the most influential, let's say, policies that have been implemented, which was our reaction, the European reaction to the war in Ukraine, and focus on making Europe independent from Russian fossil fuels, support a robust supply chain, and really focus on the security of our supply chain and interconnectivity, and of course invest in renewables. COVID, but also the war in UK made explicit our vulnerability as a European continent on very elaborate and global value chains. And although personally, I agree with the need to have security of value chains, but I also perceive international value chains as one of the biggest leverage for global peace. I would extend this policy beyond Europe and trying to get it embraced by international organizations like the World Trade Organization, like the UN. That would be crucial for me because that is important for world peace. Europe also integrated and transformed its digital policies and industrial policies in a way that they became compatible with the European Green Deal, this optimal interaction between nature, society, and economy. And in 2023, we had the new law on reducing methane. Methane is the second most influential and catastrophic greenhouse gas emission, very related to farming practices. And through that, we had an update for 55. And also we had regular updates on the sustainable finance and EU taxonomy regulations and laws. And in 2024, we had the very influential nature restoration law, which is about regenerative ways of using nature and valuing nature and making sure that investments understand the value of sustainably using nature and even integrate, monetize values of nature. Last month in New York, where I was again there, we, during the UN General Assembly, we had, and during the New York Climate Week, we had the Summit of the Future, which is a statement that we are all committed to Agenda 2030, and that important elements in this agenda are the transition to sustainable development, peace, control of new technologies, empowering young people and future generations, and reforming UN architecture in order to have more implementation power and in order to have a financial architecture managing multilateral financial institutions in a way that the necessary funds can also move to the global south. At the moment, the global south does not have enough financing, and this inflicts our ability to become green and digital, to transform as well. Because this transformation is not a transformation that can be achieved in Europe, and the fact that the rest of the world cannot achieve the transformation not influence Europe. Our transformation will be successful only if all countries transform, because most of the problems that are managed by this potential transformation are global problems, like the climate change problem, like economic problems, growth problems, inflationary pressures problems, like ecosystem collapse problems. So we need to make sure that Europe will achieve the European Green Deal and implement the European Green Deal, but at the same time, the US will achieve it, China will achieve it, Asia and India in Asia will achieve it, and Africa will achieve it as well, and Australia. And not only that, and Latin America, and not only that, but make sure that we understand our responsibility to streamline through financial flows to the global south for a true SDG stimulus with low interest rates and long-run loans that can help the education of the global south and allow them to embark on the green and digital transformation. How much time do I got still? Do I have? Is there somebody to inform me on the time? How much time I have?
Actually, Professor, we had said until 11:40, but I don't know if
okay,
you
let me close it then.
Thank you, thank you.
So I will close by saying that it is very important to measure where you are with regards to the implementation of the European Green Deal and the global network, the global framework of SDGs, to where I place the European Green Deal as a regional effort for supporting this network. And unfortunately, as you see in the Sustainable Development Solutions Network report, the global network report, you can see that we are far behind implementing the SDGs. You can see on the right-hand side of the slide, the dotted blue line, which is where we can, what we can reach with the current pace of implementation, and the dotted green line, which showcases the kind of pace of implementation and slope in our implementation curve that needs to be achieved in order to achieve the SDGs. And we have a very detailed description for each country in the world against each goal and each target within the goals. Red means major challenges, green means SDG achieved. And this is detailed per system. Here you can see the food systems, the climate system, the land use system, the oceans and sea systems. They are all very red across the globe, and it is still the same in Europe, although Europe is the leader in the implementation of the SDGs, and this is facilitated by the European Green Deal and its many laws and directives. These are hundreds of thousands of pages. However, still, even Europe is close to 72% of implementation. And it is true that we are not going to achieve the SDGs by 2030. However, it is my understanding, and I hope it will be realized, we will renew our commitment to the SDGs in 2030 towards 2050. And this will be crucial because now SDGs are being understood, are integrated in policy agendas, in some ways explicitly, in other ways implicitly, but they are there. So we should stick with them, we should not change the framework, and we should move towards implementation. I want to close by saying that in order to implement, you don't only need to measure where you are, which I've shown the reports that do that. You don't only need to have your targets, which the European Green Deal has articulated into a very detailed policy framework. You also need to develop the pathways from where you are to your targets. And this is exactly what the Global Climate Hub does in a very systemic, interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary framework, where we integrate mathematical modeling of climate scenarios, energy and transport systems transformation, land use and marine use systems transformation, health and innovation systems transformation, and integrate everything into socioeconomic systems to make sure that you can finance the transformation pathways, which are the optimal mixture of technologies, policies, and fiscal and financial instruments. And at the same time, the green layer of the interdisciplinary mathematical modeling works with the transdisciplinary layer, where you engage with the stakeholders. And this engagement with the stakeholders definitely presupposes what we are doing in Exist. Presupposes training and education that allows you to have stakeholders that have the capacity to become co-designers and shareholders and part of the labor force that will support the European Green Deal. And our vision and what we currently work on is to make available all these models and results and data in a climate data platform with many digital applications for everybody to look at. I will now leave it to to Eleni, Toli, and Conrad, Landis to introduce the result of the green and digital study on that we did on twin skills for the twin transition. They are gonna showcase how we've put together all EU policies relevant to the green and digital transition and derived from this big data set of laws and regulations and directives, the exact green and digital skills and their combinations that are needed in order to support the transition. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Koundouri, for this very interesting and very informative presentation on the policy framework for the sustainability transition. We are now giving the floor to Eleni Toli, Ms. Eleni Toli, who is Senior Researcher at the Athena Research Center and the Athens University of Economics and Business. And she's going to present the white paper on green and digital skills. Thank you very much, Eleni.
Thank you, Vula. Very happy to be here. I will share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Okay,
correct,
great.
please.
Great. Yes, Professor Koundouri made an excellent introduction. So, as mentioned at the end, I will present you some aspects of the white paper we have produced in our team on the twin skills. And we believe it's a work that we believe that is very relevant to the EXCEED project and the COVEs. So why is this a topic of high importance? Because we live in times of high uncertainty, as also Professor Koundouri showed in the beginning. So the question is, and this is something we need to answer very fast actually, are training and skills providers and the job market prepared for addressing the disruptive changes that are ahead of us? This is something that was a motivation because for us to work on this aspect, because we already witnessed changes in the labor market. Technologies, products, material, production methods change dramatically or even disappear. And this impacts all types of jobs, especially the brown jobs. And brown jobs are traditionally associated with the manufacturing industry, and these jobs will come under pressure. You can see there is a study already performed on this topic, and will undergo significant transformation. White jobs, white jobs will become more green. This is the tendency by focusing, for example, on the reduction of emissions within existing activities. But importantly, and you see the white jobs are the vast majority of the jobs currently, but important, new green jobs will be created, and these new green jobs will try to reduce the environmental impact of the economic activity by design right away, right from the beginning. So the major changes that are expected to take place are the ones that are related to the brown jobs. So we need to answer the question, what we can do, how can we better address the skill mismatches that are created through this changing landscape. And this led us to start working on a relevant white paper, which was launched in 2023, which was the year of the European Year of Skills. And this has been a collaboration between Huawei, PwC, and Athena Research Center. And we combined several methodological elements, which you can see on the right part of this slide. And to produce what we had set as our objective, which was the development of a data-driven framework that provides insights into the trends and skills in skills and occupations. What we did in very general terms, we applied a science, technology, innovation methodology. So a methodology that combines all these three elements, and this allowed for a better understanding of the labor, skills, and trends. So a data-intensive project. We made use of data analytics and text mining techniques to develop a new framework that would allow us to identify the demand for twin skills, so green and digital, but also any trends and projections. As a starting point, we used the ESCO framework and the classifications for skills and competences and occupation. ESCO framework, as it is known, it follows the international skills classification, but also provides relations between occupations and skills. And as already mentioned, the aim of the report has been to support the achievement of the twin transition goals by identifying the new skills that are needed. Professor Koundouri made a very thorough introduction into this policy frameworks. And this is an important table because in this table, you can see the first part of our analysis. It presents the relation between the EU policy context, which is listed under the three main pillars of our analysis, which is corporate sustainability reporting, environment, energy, and industry. And then it links this to the underlying sectors of the economic activity following the standard statistical classification of economic activities. And in the last two columns, we present the relevant twin skills and occupation. So this table actually links occupations and skills with the existing EU frameworks and guidelines. We used the classification and the hierarchies provided by the ESCO API to develop this data-driven scoring model, which allowed us to classify occupations based on their greenness, digitization, and greenness in digitization. So how jointly green and digital is each occupation. And our model calculates a score from 0 to 100 on these three areas. Based on these calculations, here you can see the result of these calculations actually. Here you can see the top 15 green, digital, and jointly green and digital occupations. Energy assessor, for example, is the most green occupation, whereas digital webmaster is the most digital occupation. But if you combine the characteristics of green and digital, the occupation that collects, that reaches the highest score is smart home engineer. We did a similar ranking for the skills and knowledge groups, and we did this at the most detailed level of the classification. Next, in our research, we worked on the relation between twin skills and knowledge concepts and the employment growth. And the employment data are based on the Eurostat's labor force survey from 2022. And we performed cross-sectional regressions on the average annual employment growth, investigating exactly these three aspects, green, digital, and twin. And here you can see some interesting outcomes. You see, for example, that the employment growth of green occupations is mainly in the administrative services and in transportation and in storage. But if we go to the digital aspects, or if we combine green and digital aspects, here you can see that manufacturing, for example, is one of the sectors that has witnessed a great shift and a great increase. And so there are significant positive relationships between for ICT, energy, professional services, manufacturing, and insurance. So these are the sectors that have been impacted and present the biggest growth rate in relation to green and digital. In the final part of our work, we wanted to understand what is the situation, what is the actual situation, and in the job market. And for this, we analyze the skills that are requested by online job ads in 2022. And the first column includes the level 2 occupation group. The second column refers to the level 1 ESCO skills and knowledge groups. And the third column is the frequency of appearance. So how frequently this occupation and this skill have appeared in online job ads. And what we have identified as top green and digital skills and knowledge concepts are, in our research, are also among the ones that are most requested in skills in online ads. So the trend goes in the same direction. The results go in the same direction. As I mentioned, this was only a glimpse of the report. You can read and download this report. As mentioned already, this is part of a bigger work in our team. And actually, in the next presentation by Conrad Landis, Dr. Conrad Landis, you will also hear about sector-specific analysis we have performed after producing this report on one of the sectors, on the maritime, which is, we believe, one of the sectors that also Exceed deals with. So thank you very much, and I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you very much, Eleni. And now we're giving the floor to Dr. Conrad Landis, economist and data analyst, postdoc researcher at the Research Laboratory on Socioeconomic and Environmental Sustainability at Athens University of Economics and Business. Thank you, Conrad. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Vula, and thank you, Eleni, for the introduction. So, as Eleni already told you, I will start first by providing you a very quick review of our work in making more specific our framework and our models to measure to measure how green digital or jointly green digital the skills, occupations and competences, knowledge concepts are, into making more specific on specific sectors, and I will focus mainly on the maritime sector. So first, in this work, we have done the first step to identify actually the blue skills, that is the occupations, skills, knowledge concepts that needed and requested by the maritime sector. And by the maritime sector, we mean industrial transportation, sea transportation, mainly in shipping, ports, maritime logistics, and maritime technology. So based on this first initial mapping of occupations and skills on several levels based on the ESCO framework, we had run and applied the model that was already discussed and explained by Eleni. So in order to make this green and digital skills hierarchy, that is, which are the most important jointly green and digital skills for requested and needed in the maritime sector. So apart from that, we also made a similar research in order to try and understand what is the demand for these skills, and in mostly using as sources online ads such as LinkedIn. So we had also made here a list of the top 5 demanded occupations from the maritime industry, and of course linked to the previous analysis, that is, which are the most requested occupations, which are the most requested skills. And you know that actually an occupation requires a very large set of skills on different levels, knowledge concepts and knowledge concepts. So all of these, you can see here all of these classifications in this table, which are actually identify which are right now the most important jointly green digital skills in the maritime sector. Now, the last step would be we link that to the policy context, of course. So we have here also make a mapping between the right now the policies that are most affecting the maritime sector, IMO, Marble Convention, Ballast Water Management Convention, and which are actually the green and digital skills and occupations which are required in order to support the transition of the maritime sector. And of course, you can find these a lot more details about that into our online reports for the skills in the maritime sector. Okay, and this is we are also working on actively performing this exercise to many different sectors, because we think it's very, very important that the skills that we need to identify the skills which are needed specifically on different sectors to support in general the transition towards sustainability. And speaking for the transition to sustainability, I will move on to the second part of my presentation, which I will give you an overview of what we mean, how can we measure sustainability. So as we said, that specific green and digital skills are required in order to transition towards sustainability. Then the most important question is, how can we measure sustainability? What do we mean by being sustainable? All right, and so through our work with as Athena Research Center, through our work in UNSDSN, United Nations Sustainable Development Solution Network, Global Climate Hub, we are working a lot on sustainability contexts and sustainability models and metrics on different levels. Okay, so so starting, as Professor Phoebe Koundouri already gave you some hints about what do we mean by being sustainable. So here the main reference is Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, so we do have 245 KPIs and their specific targets to implementation until a future period, 2030. Now there are discussions for 2050, which all of these key performance indicators are aggregated into 17 specific goals and targets. Okay, and we do have here the most common sustainability metrics from UNSDSN, which at an annual basis, it publishes this sustainability report that actually reports the performance of countries, of all individual countries around the world against these 17 targets. Okay, and the metrics are most commonly reported to dashboards like that. So we do have a score from 0 to 100, or what is the actual statistical distance from today until reaching the target. And then based on these scores, there are ratings which are calculated with these colors. So for example, red means that we are very far from achieving the goal. The orange means that there are significant challenges in achieving this goal. The yellow means we have moderate challenges in achieving the goal, and green means we are either very close or we have already reached this target. And this is the most common methodology, started in 2016, which is also adopted by the European Union and the JRC. So this methodology is audited by JRC on 2020. And this is the most commonly metrics when we are talking about sustainability. So UNSDSN also calculates these dashboards for of course, as we said, for all countries, but also at an aggregate level for the entire world or for the different regions, as for the different global regions, as European Union, or Europe, or America, or Asia, etc. Okay, so apart from only calculating these distance scores towards the targets, it is also very common to calculate what we called a trend. That is, all right, if we continue in simple words, if we continue onto the same pace, on the same direction, when we will be at 2030 in relation to achieving the goals. And these are usually reported with these arrows that you can see here together with the ratings. So for example, for here for Greece, in relation to SDG 1, this rating and score means that today we have moderate challenges in achieving this SDG, but if we continue on the same direction, we will achieve this SDG on 2030, because you can see that this trend and arrow here, it's green. Also, it's most common we calculate some sort of metrics in order to measure how much the level of implementation of one country or one region put actually barriers in the implementation of other regions or other countries towards achieving these goals. And this is what we call by spillover metrics. So how the performance of one country might have a negative impact or barriers towards another country or another region in achieving one or more goals. Okay, so this is the most, these three are actually the most common metrics that are used from UNSDSN. And in relation to sustainability metrics, there is a great need in order to downscale these metrics to more local levels, because achieving the sustainable development goals, it means that require actually all state actors, companies, cities, region, financial education institution to take rigorous and immediate action, right? So in order to achieve the goals globally, nationally, or at any regional level, we need to be able to downscale these concepts to more localized levels in order to be able to track, measure, and actually use this type of metrics in order to optimize our decision-making towards achieving these goals, okay? So we will see here a collection of these type of metrics that try to downscale this methodology to more local level. For example, here we have the dashboards and the metrics that try to measure the level of implementation at the subnational level. So as an example here, I include Greece, and we can see here that this dashboard actually measures the level of implementation of the goals in the 13 NUTS 2 level regions in Greece. So the 13 Greek administrative distinct regions. And so in that sense, this is a version that at the subnational level that we can try to see how, all right, we know what the performance of a country, how can we see what's going on between the different regions inside the country. Moving more local at this scale, let's try to think, how can we measure, for example, the level of implementation, how universities or any other institution contributes to the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. So here, for example, there are other models and frameworks that also they try to measure exactly the same how an institution, here on this example, a university, contributes to the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Of course, the KPIs and the metrics and the models might be a little bit different. So just to give you an example, a university, we can consider 4 pillars actually at the university. So the first one would be research, how the research produced in a university contributes towards the implementation of the goals, or how the education, the course outline, support the Sustainable Development Goals. What's the level of integration of the SDGs into the curriculum, into the course outlines of an academic institution, right? Another pillar would be operation and governance, in a sense that the university also operates some sort of of a public or private company. And so we have there a set of ESG metrics to measure the level of implementation of these goals. Or the fourth pillar based on external leadership. So here we are interested how much the university through its events or other practices may actually contribute or support the SDGs. Okay, more or less, all of these models here are, the KPIs are of different nature. For example, for research, someone needs to apply machine learning based models in order to measure how much the research produced, that is papers, books, conference proceeding, any other outputs of the university that might consider as research, actually is mapped and contributes to the SDGs. And same for example, for the education, we have to process the course outline and identify, map these course outlines, how they support and which are the gaps towards the full integration of the Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, now, speaking about sustainability models, it might be the case that we need models to measure how much a budgetary plan or an investment plan contributes and supports the implementation of the SDGs. So, for example, here we have a model that measures is based on the National Recovery and Resilience Plans of 7 South European member states: Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus, Greece, Italy, Slovenia, and Spain. And here actually we provide the mapping on how the budget allocated onto different sectors through these National Recovery and Resilience Plans actually contributes and support the SDGs. So in order to be able to use these tools to bridge the gap between the need of implementing the SDGs and financing and allocate correctly the finance to finance the implementation of these goals. Okay, now another example of that would be the integration of the Sustainable Development Goals into a mechanism that allocates, for example, EU funds. So what I present here is a big EU EC project, which actually developed a mechanism in order to control the effectiveness of funds allocated through Horizon 2020. So the mechanism of EU in allocating funds, it's actually based on, maybe some of you are familiar with that, with the Rio markers. So one EU official just pre-allocates a score from 0 to 100 on how relevant a specific project is to climate change, to sustainability, or the SDGs. So actually the metrics are based on the intention. So what EC wants actually is to be able to measure the effectiveness of funds already allocated to some projects. So here there were developed KPIs and models in order to measure how much actually the outputs of EU projects, that means deliverables, publication, papers, patents, companies, spin-offs, anything that was created through EU projects actually contributes to the implementation of the SDGs. Okay, now all of these are examples on sustainability, on models that we can use to measure sustainability metrics on different levels and of different aspects. Okay, now a final example would be how can we, for example, map the circular economy indicators with the SDGs. So how can we use the EU's circular economy KPIs as a model to help us implement the SDGs. So here, what we see here in this table are how much each one of the KPIs through the EU's CE indicators is correlated with the 17 SDGs. And this graph here gives you an idea of how dynamically each one of the aspects under circular economy contributes to the 17 SDGs. So again, these models can be used in order for us to calculate, for example, if we increase our performance on a specific circular economy indicator, what's the results, how that will contribute to the implementation of each one of the 17 SDGs. Okay, and the last step will be we discuss about the companies. So moving one more step more locally, then we have companies. All right, so in the companies we have developed actually a three-step approach, holistic approach, in order for companies to be able to transform themselves, but not only transform themselves to be sustainable, but also do that by remaining profitable. Okay, so very quickly, this process would require first some distinct steps from the companies. First of all, we need to have a very good overview of the entire value chain, of all nodes across the value chain of the company. Then company needs to perform a multi-stakeholder double materiality assessment, as with the graph that I show here. So for each one of the stakeholders, the relevant stakeholders, it's different type of stakeholders. We need to understand which are the most material issues in relation to climate change, to environment, to social and governance aspects, and how much these relates to the profitability of the company. Okay, so this is a double materiality assessment, and this needs to be performed for all different actors that do participate in a company. And then after these initial assessments that actually will help us define the mix of the KPIs to be included under the three pillars, the environment, the social, and the governance, then we have a model that actually multiple layers of KPIs, which are either generic, that apply to all companies, or sector-specific, that apply only to companies incorporating in a specific sector, or other KPIs which might even unit-specific. So, for example, different KPIs across the value chain of the company for its, for example, R&D or quality assurance. All of the nodes across the value chain might need a different form, different key performance indicators, different type of key performance indicators to measure actually the same thing. And of course, based on the newly introduced EU frameworks, that is the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, all of these KPIs needs to be in line with the European Sustainability Reporting Standards and the CRSD. Okay, now in order to give you an idea of what I mean by these three steps, let's say that a company performs all of these assessments, then most probably we'll end up with a list of KPIs, material issues under the three pillars, the three ESG pillars, which will look like this. Okay, so consider, for example, that the material issue might be emissions. Under this material issue, we can define one or more KPI, as here, for example, Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3 emissions. Okay, these KPIs needs to follow in their definitions, of course, the relevant policy context in any region or country. Okay, so for example, for the European companies, these KPIs needs to be defined based on European Sustainability Reporting Standards. Okay, now this first step actually gives us the opportunity to identify which are the most material issues under environment, social, and governance. That is, which are the important topics that we need to keep track of, and we need to be able to ameliorate our performance, not only for us to be sustainable, but also to do this profitable, okay? Because this double materiality assessment identifies for the company the risks and opportunities against the climate change, the environment, society, or other governance aspects, and then gives the opportunity, this set of KPIs gives the opportunity for company to manage all of these risks efficiently. Okay, so now here, in order to combine this with the sustainability framework of UNSDSN. Then here we have a model that is quite relevant. So for each KPI, a specific target, either policy or science-based target is assigned. Okay, and of course, many of those KPIs might be also hybrid metrics in order to help us integrate some profitability and size measures inside these KPIs, all right? But after having established these KPIs and their targets, then the model works close to, as I explained, with the SDG dashboard. Okay, so a model that helps us measure the statistical distance of our performance in different KPIs, in different pillars towards the implementation of the long-term targets. Okay, and here we discuss about these targets are more related to ESGs rather than SDGs at the corporate level. And then we can actually calculate this type of dashboards and ratings that measure the performance of companies towards their targets. Moving one step ahead, we want to be able to integrate how much these ESG targets and KPIs can help in the implementation of the long-term and more macro SDG indicators. Okay, so here our corporate sustainability assessment framework looks like that. So we do have one or more KPIs under the 3 pillars, which are dynamically mapped to one or more indicators under the 17 SDGs. Okay, so here it's a data-driven framework that actually maps and calculates a weights on how much each one of the ESG KPIs corresponds and to the implementation of each one of the SDG indicators, and of course by aggregating these indicators to SDG goals, how much we can each one of the ESG KPIs at the company level can contribute to the overall implementation of the SDGs. So here we do have this type of SDG dashboards, but at the company level, which are very, very useful tools in order for companies to integrate their active management of ESGs and be able to perform, to do their transformation more efficiently. Okay, so I will show you here a little bit an example, as I started earlier, in a company in a food sector, how all of these might look like. So here we have the list of the material issues and the KPIs. All right, for each one of these KPIs, we can assign a very specific target, which is most usually comes from policies, or actually for some of the targets, it might also come through industry benchmarking, all right? And then the corporate sustainability assessment framework looks like this. For example, here we have the weights on how each one of the ESG KPIs corresponds to the 17 SDGs and how these actually two dashboards are created. Just to give you also another example, more close to the maritime sector, let's see also an implementation of these frameworks for the Mediterranean ports. So what we see here is the model for 3 big ports in the Mediterranean region. So it's Piraeus, it's the Port of Valencia and the Port of Limassol that have gone through all of these steps that we described. They have identified specific material issues and specific KPIs under the 3 pillars. I provide here an example of how many KPIs, which are these KPIs, which were identified. How did we set the targets for the implementation of these KPIs? How did we perform the benchmarking of these KPIs with the maritime sector, with other companies in the port sector, and also how this mapping and framework looks like for the European ports, okay? And of course, here I just included some of the results of how these scores looks like in relation to ESGs or SDGs. For example, just to give you a number here at an aggregate level, at an ESG level. For the Mediterranean ports, we have only a 55.36 level of implementation of the ESGs. And as you can see, for many SDGs, the level of implementation is actually low. Now, if we try to identify the weaknesses and the strengths in this performance, we can further break down to the three pillars: environmental, governance, and social. And you can see, for example, that the environmental pillar is actually scoring really, really low, and we need to do more in the ports in relation to towards the decarbonization, while, for example, the integration of governance and social aspects are way much better. As you can see, they have a high performance of integrating governance and social aspects. Okay, now, before I close, I will also provide you an overview of metrics that we can use in order to measure the sustainability performance of financial portfolios, okay? So as with companies, how can we, for example, if we have a portfolio of investments, how can we calculate how sustainable this portfolio is, okay? And actually here, for this model, we use a huge database with actually more than 11,000 companies listed in international stock exchanges. These companies correspond to more of 97% of the global market capitalization. And there are more than 600 ESG KPIs that were collected for these companies through sources, commonly used sources like Thomson Reuters, like Bloomberg, Asset4, and other providers that are leading providers of sustainability-related data. So what we're trying to do here is we try to identify if there are sources of price risk in relation to ESGs. And first of all, before we introduce the ESG into the model that measure how sustainable a portfolio are, let's see some interesting facts. So, for example, here we can clearly see that during the last decade at least, we can see that the stocks, that the companies that do increase their ESG performance tend to actually experience a lot higher returns than the market. And on the contrary, companies that are laggards, so companies that have a low ESG performance, tend to actually experience a lot lower returns compared to the market. And these are here, this is depicted here by three simple portfolios. If we invest in a portfolio that contains the 10% of stocks with the highest ESG performance relative to a portfolio of stocks with the low ESG performance. So it's very clear right now during the last 10 years that the ESGs are connected to a higher financial performance in the markets. And also, we can use alternative metrics in order to measure the level of greenwashing in all of these metrics. So suppose that we have right now the companies declare actually their performance, but right now, at least in Europe, this declaration is not actually audited by any party, okay? And this is what actually Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive try to correct. Okay, so Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive will require all big companies until 2026 to actually draft a sustainability report, and later by 2028, the sustainability report will also be audited by third parties, as with the financial statements of the companies, okay? So it is important to know what is the level right now of greenwashing, of companies declaring actually false data in relation to their performance. And this graph shows us that, for example, on different sectors at the international markets, there is, during the last 20 years, there is very statistical significant performance greenwashing at the level of 10 to 20 or 16% on different sectors as financial, industrial, and utilities. Okay, now very quickly in order to close, since it is now evident that ESGs and good and bad ESG performance have an impact on the return of companies, then we can actually define models in order to integrate these type of risks in asset pricing models that we can use to evaluate our portfolios, okay? And indeed, if we calculate asset pricing, ESG-related or SDG-related asset pricing factors, then we can prove that these factors actually work and increase the predictability of asset pricing models, okay? And in this sense, here we have a collection of models that integrate ESGs and SDGs, and latter can be easily used as a model to measure how much a financial portfolio contributes to ESGs or SDGs. Okay, and since I'm already ahead of time, I will close here. I will also underline that in Athena Research Center and the Athens University of Economics and Business, we also have a professional course that we actually that is mainly focused on sustainability and sustainability metrics and sustainability models. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Conrad, Landis. Thank you. We have now completed the talks by our three distinguished presenters, and we would like to pass now to a question and answer session, and then we will have a brief presentation from Maria Ivanova on Build Skills Academy, and a participatory activity to close today's session. So we are now having the question and answer session on the presentations that we have heard. Please, if you have a question, you can raise your hand or write it on the chat, as you prefer. Thank you. Yes, Elena, I see that.
Yes, thank you, Rula. So I have two questions, one for Eleni and one for Landis. So thank you very much for all your very interesting presentations. First of all, for Landis, regarding this system, let's say, matrix you have shared with us today, you think that we can, let's say, try to connect in this approach to the Center of Vocational Excellence structure. So multi-stakeholder platform, bridges between bank system, companies, universities, and also governance, because this is one of the priorities of the Center of Vocational Excellence. So I'm doing this question also in light of the title of our workshop today. Do you think that these metrics can be applied also to the Center of Vocational Excellence as a multi-stakeholder ecosystem in order to verify the capacity of the COVEs, let's say, in their life, not only during, let's say, the project life cycle, but also in a wider perspective? So might we think to apply this metrics to verify how the activity of all the members of the COVEs can boost, can support the green and digital transitions at ecosystem level?
Yes, of course. And this is actually the reason for my session, right? So the idea is that at the core of the discussion of green and digital skills, all of these metrics that can actually help us not only measure the sustainability, not only measure our performance, but have on the ground tools that we can use to actively manage our performance. Okay, how can we define specific KPIs to understand where I am today, but also to be able to test to test specific interventions and what the impact would be in the implementation of our long-term sustainability goals. So yes, the frameworks that we discussed can be directly actually implemented in a project and can be actually a vehicle for the continuation of this project after its lifetime. Okay.
Thank you very much. Second question before leaving the floor to the other participants, it's more focused on skills. Since at least in our Exceed COVE that my colleague Irina will present very briefly later on before the presentation of the Build Skills Academy COVE, let's say we are now working on the updating of existing higher VET curricula to make them more responsive towards this green and digital transition in the advanced manufacturing sector. So referring to the list of most requested skills we have, Eleni, we have seen in your presentation before, make a sort of wrap up, let's say a list of the most wanted, the most requested skills on the labor market for the advanced manufacturing. What kind of advice can you give us for this upskilling and reskilling process, and also from our side as VET providers for, let's say, the updating process of our curricula?
Actually, thank you very much for your question, because I realized now that you asked that I had a very final slide in my presentation, which I accidentally deleted while moving from the draft to the main one, which was exactly about providing some recommendations. And maybe I will try to find this slide and share it with you, because it's really important. And actually also in our report, we have a number of suggestions on how to move forward and what are the things that really matter. And one of the things is to start this discussion, I would say, in a very organized way, the way that is happening currently in several projects working with COVEs. And this is something we didn't have in the past, to have the discussion in a way that brings also results and is not at the theoretical level. And what I would also like to say is that each COVE focuses on a specific section, on a specific sector. It is also important to learn from each other and to have this exchange also with other COVEs, because maybe the focus is different, maybe the sector is different, but the skills themselves, the skills that are needed, and the methodologies and tools that are developed in order to acquire these skills is something that we can certainly learn from each other and use from each other. So any good examples that are developed, even if it is not in our context, it's not advanced manufacturing, it is, I don't know, digital, purely digital, or building sector, just an example. So this is something we can certainly take advantage, and we should also learn, and then bring into the discussion of skills also the discussion that Conrad mentioned about ESGs. ESGs is a very important aspect, and it's something that it's mandatory for the companies in Europe. It is measured. It is directly linked to the outcomes of the companies. So we have to make this connection between the skills that are required and their relation to how they can support the achievement of the ESGs in a company.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elena, for the questions, and Conrad and Eleni for answering the questions. Do we have any further questions from the audience, please? If I cannot see the hand, perhaps you can turn on your microphone and speak directly. I don't see any raised hands right now.
We have a question in the chat.
Yes, I just saw it. Yes, thank you. So I would like to ask if it is going to be upon countries to implement regulations, giving perhaps a time schedule for companies to follow, perhaps per sector, or is it going to be upon companies? I mean, each company and organization is going to be responsible for implementing those KPIs and report accordingly, or how is it going to proceed?
I think this question is for me. Yes, based on corporate sustainability reporting directive, starting by this year, or all large companies needs to actually report their need to draft a sustainability report that will contain the specific KPIs as dictated by the European Sustainability Reporting Standard. So yes, this report would be at the company level. Okay. Now it doesn't have yet this directive. It's not exactly have provide other responsibilities in implementing specific KPIs. It's mainly on the reporting and how we will report adequately, and how we will report, how actually all companies will report, and these reports will be audited also by third parties in order to be able to let's say to deal with the greenwashing in sustainability, in common sustainability reports. It's not though a policy to ask companies to implement those KPIs yet at the specific horizon. Okay.
Thank you, Conrad, for your answer. Are there any further questions? I don't see at the chat. Okay, if there are no further questions, we can proceed with a presentation first by Irina Puskak on the Exceed COVE, in which we are participating as Athena RC on advanced manufacturing. And then we will proceed with Maria Ivanova presenting the Build Skills Academy, which deals with the construction sector. So Irina, please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you a lot, Vula. Hello to everybody. My name is Irina, and here together with my colleague Elena, we are representing Genderform, which is the coordinator of the Exceed COVE. The Exceed Excellence in Green and Digital Manufacturing Centers of Vocational Excellence is aimed to create 6 COVEs, 2 in Italy, in Emilia-Romagna, and also in Reggio Emilia, in Greece, Czech Republic, Spain, and Finland, in order to support the advanced manufacturing sector towards considering the eco-digital innovation and transition to circular digital economy. As you can see here, we are 16 partners who are working all together on development of the project results. So 4 macro results will be the creation of International Observatory in EM, that is going to support eco-digital transition in the advanced manufacturing sector through the strong multi-stakeholders approach, where we are involving a lot of university, research center, web providers, companies, and public administrations. that are combining our policy board of the project, with the aim to adopt a systematic approach to skills intelligence and to design responsive VET curricula and to support innovation in education policies. The second step is the creation of that curricula. Actually, we are going to work in 3 dimensions. The first dimension will be the update and development and testing of 16 higher VET curricula. We are going to work on the EQF4 and EQF5. And what actually we are going to do is to update 12 existing curricula on the partners level and also work on the creation of 4 brand new curriculum to support the digital transformation in the advanced manufacturing sector on the EU level. Later on, we are going to also focus on the development of learners' certain training framework for low-skilled adults. And also integrate the mobility of them to partner countries of the COVE. We are also going to work on the development of upskilling curricula for VET trainer in order to support them in the design and development of the teaching activities with the focus on digital eco-innovation. We are going to also work on the development and creation of international talent factory that is going to work on the talent attraction and retention in all partner countries. We are going to design, develop, and pilot the talent factory supporting the eco-digital transition. Last but not least, we are going to also to develop and create 2 international skills exhibition to increase awareness, animate the international debate, and sensitize public and private stakeholders at the EU level to what is considered the skills demands and evolution in AM. So those are the main results. You can also check out our website because we already have created and delivered a lot of publication. For example, the first international observatory report of the first year was already released together with the highlights. So check out our website and also subscribe to our social media. Thank you a lot.
Thank you very much, Irina. Just to mention here that we are at Athena Research Center. We are participating in Exceed, and we have chosen the sector of shipping for the advanced manufacturing. Thank you very much, Irina. And now we have Maria Ivanova from Cleantech Bulgaria, who are project coordinators for the Build Skills Academy. So, Maria, if you would like to deliver also a presentation, thank you.
Yes, Vula, thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity to join this event and to act actually as co-organizers of it. I would like to briefly present the Build Skills Academy Center of Vocational Excellence. Our center brings together 17 partners from 7 European countries, 2 associated countries, and 1 non-associated country. You can see all of them in this green triangle. As you can see, we have also more than 20 associated partners to the project. So the Build Skills Academy will elaborate strong and enduring relationships at both local and transnational level between VET community and business, rolling out mutual benefits for the different stakeholders through first revolutionizing the construction sector to addressing the challenges posed by the twin transition, through creating a pan-European framework for certification and skills upgrading with focus on the construction sector, and identifying and integrating transitional skills into the existing VET courses. Here you can see a short overview of our project objectives. We would like to update and adapt VET services offered to the emerging new needs in the field of green and digital skills, to offer trainings related to the real needs of the labor market, to applying the lifelong learning approach, and also reskilling and upskilling of the workforce in the construction sector. The certification framework that we're going to develop will present an umbrella certification for recognizing and validating course content on EU level. And of course, our main aim is to bridge the certification gaps between member states. We would like to achieve the following project results. For now, at this stage of the project, a year and a half after its start, we have already developed, made an analysis and developed a list of skills and competencies for different occupations and EQF levels on the basis of the taxonomy for green skills of ESCO. We also developed the so-called quality assurance process for enriched VET courses based on the ECOVET framework. And thanks to our partners from the Athens University, who led this activity, we also developed already the Build and Enrich Skills methodology. The methodology will actually allow VET providers to self-assess their VET courses and to acquire some very targeted recommendations on how they could update them with some missing green and digital skills needed for the specific occupations in the construction sector. The topical areas for the construction sector, as we defined them at the beginning of our project, cover the net zero carbon emissions, climate resilience and adaptation, circular economy practices, sustainable materials outsourcing, and also occupant health and well-being. You can see that there are more than 600 skills for transformation. We have until now overcome some challenges to prepare the quality assurance framework. We set the quality criteria applicable first by our project partners who are VET providers in different European countries. So we identified the commonalities in the approach to quality, and this will allow the Build and Enrich Skills methodology to be also compliant with the ECOVET standards. Here you can see the main process that we follow in implementing our project. As already said, we identified the skills and competencies missing. We drafted the matrix of the transitional skills. And actually, at project preparation level, we didn't imagine how big data we're going to have in this matrix. So we decided together with the Athens University to develop the Build and Enrich Skills methodology together with a digital tool that will actually be very user-friendly and allow VET providers to let's say, become to update their courses based on tailor-made recommendations. We are now at the process of discussions and exchanging ideas and views with many external stakeholders. On the one side, we have thematic groups. There are 5 thematic groups based on the topical areas identified at the beginning. And also we have onboarded our external quality assurance panel. So we will try to get also their feedback and update our outcomes. That's basically about the Build and Enrich, the Build Skills Academy. You can, of course, follow us in social media and get more information from our website, buildskillsacademy.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for the presentation, very informative also. I see that we only have 5 minutes, so I don't think that there is enough time for us to carry out the activity that we have prepared. I don't know if We can share the link nevertheless, and people can participate in the activity, and we can see the results afterwards. So I don't know what you think about it. I can share the link here.
Yes, please, Vrula, share the link in the chat. Thank you.
Yes. So I think I shared it. So if you can vote,
Yeah.
and then we can share the results afterwards with you. Thank you very much. So I don't know, Elena, if you would like to close today's session.
So I think we can close here. So please enter in the Metimeter. Vrula and colleagues are prepared just to complete the workshop of today. Thank you very much to everyone for participating in our first Exceed talk. I remember that this is the first one out of 6 of 12 workshop we are going to deliver in cooperation with our partners and external experts in the next month and years, since the Exceed project as the BS COVE projects will have a duration of 4 years and will end at the end of May 2027. So let's keep tuned, and let's keep in contact and subscribe our newsletter and look at our social media channels, because we are going to enter in the core of our implementation and innovation activities. Thank you very much to Vrula and colleagues of the Athena RC for organizing and facilitating the workshop of today. And thank you, first of all, to our keynote speakers for their inspiring presentation. As said at the very beginning, we are going to share all the presentations later on, so that you can have a check of all the materials in detail. Thank you very much once again, and have a good day ahead. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.